The engine is an early 3-rib block with a 40mm crank. And I've had Toyotas since I was 21 and I've made some incredible friends. And I'm so grateful for those friends. How you doing, everybody? Welcome to this video and welcome to the channel. If you are new to the channel, my name is Sam and this behind me is my Ae86 Corolla. And today I want to do an honest review on what I think of my car. So I'll pull it out, I'll get her warmed up and we'll go out for a drive. Okay, so just found a little country road, nice and quiet. Apologies if it is a bit bumpy. The car at the moment is on TRD suspension, so it's on revolver front coilovers which were made from the TRD shocks at the time. And it's got the 7-way adjustable TRD shocks on the rear with some lowering springs. So it is very bouncy. But yeah, so I bought the car in 2015 and it was just out of a paint shop. The chap who I bought it from, Andy, unfortunately had a job abroad and couldn't take it with him, so that's where I acquired the car. But I've done a lot to it in the 7 years of ownership. It's not the quickest of cars, but it pulls so well. I have a 4.7 way TRD LSD in the rear. That was on the car when I purchased it, which is brilliant. The engine is an early 3-rib block with a 40mm crank, and I had this engine rebuilt by Rob May in 2020. And it was all original, genuine Toyota parts. But unfortunately, the 4th journal on the crank had just burnt. It got so hot that it warped it. And I was very lucky to find a 40mm crank from a chap who breaks Mark 1 MR2s. They're quite hard to get, and this one was from a racing team. So I was very lucky that we put it on the calibrating machine. Rob had it all calibrated and it was perfect. It was within spec, so I could use it. So that was brilliant. I could rescue the original 3-rib block, which is what I want to do. I want to allow this car to be as original as possible. Managed to, after about 4.5 years of searching, I managed to get the 2 original blue front seats. This is the JDM spec, and as far as I know, only the silver cars out of Japan had this spec in this blue, so I was very lucky. I didn't know how rare they were at the time. But other than 4-branch manifold, FGK 4-branch stainless manifold, and a custom stainless exhaust, everything else is pretty much original. The wheels that a lot of people have noticed are OEM spec wheels, early spec. When Isaac, he owns a company where he was able to split the original wheels apart and add a wider dish, and I love them. But driving on 13-inch wheels nowadays is a bit unusual. A lot of people don't quite realise how small they are until I tell them. When I bought this car, it came with Vulcan mesh, and as far as we're aware, they're actually an option, or were an option in the day, and they're actually offset. I think they're 7J on the rear and 6.5 on the front. So for the ride of this car, as I mentioned, it's very bumpy. It's not massively uncomfortable, but it's bumpy. This car isn't massively fast anyway, so I don't tend to drive it very, very fast. I'm always looking out for potholes and stuff in the road. But I suppose that comes with driving this particular car. I don't know if you can also hear, there's always a whine, and that's the diff. I'm used to it now, but when I first bought the car, it was a little bit strange to get used to. But yeah, that's the diff whining in the back, the LSD. Drives so well, handles brilliantly. So it may be bumpy, but when you get on a good road surface, it just grips and it points exactly was also fully poly bushed. Some of the bushes when I bought it were a little bit worn. I thought, just so I don't have to sort of go through each one over the years I own the car, because I know at some point they'll all perish, I just went and bought a poly bush kit, so the car is fully poly bushed underneath. I also have a lot of Cusco bits and pieces, so I have the tension rod on the front, tension rod on the rear, Cusco strut brace, and I've also added like the T3 add-on bars which bolt to the bulkhead just to strengthen it up a bit. I just love the look of it. I don't track this car. If you can just see behind me, this was a purchase that wasn't supposed to be for this car. It was very, very cheap and I was going to buy it, spray it and sell it, but in the end I decided to keep it when I found out that it was a Cusco 6-point half cage. So that's what that is behind there. I've kept that. I've always loved my Cusco stuff. It's sort of period correct, but yeah, had it on my previous car, my Starlet, and I love it on this one. Now what I do love about this car is the simplicity. This particular spec is a really early 1980s, it's 1983, it's one of the first to be built. I've actually found out it's within the first 3 or 4 months of production of the Ae86 that this car was built. It's silver over black, which is a very rare colour combo. 2M8 is the colour code, and as far as I'm aware, only these silver cars came with the blue interior, which I have, and this is why I really wanted to find the original seats. This particular model has no power steering, but it did come with air conditioning, which at the time that I purchased it, it didn't actually have the air conditioning unit in. But since ownership, I've managed to find an air conditioning unit. I cleaned it up the best I can and updated all the fittings to the latest gas and had it regassed. And there is actually a video within the channel with me fitting this AC unit, so check it out. But yeah, so it's got original AC, non-power steering, and that's about it. What I'm very lucky with this car is it has the digital dash, and I love this dashboard. It all works as well, which is brilliant. Sometimes I think it's the fuel gauge will fail, but I've been very lucky that everything works, and I love it. It's such a cool detail. With regards to space, I'm 6'1". In these original seats, I do have to tilt the back a little bit, but other than that, I'm really comfortable driving it. I do have a smaller Intel Volante wheel on at the moment, which I had made in the initial D replica style. I do have the original steering wheel. I have one in vinyl and one in leather, and sometimes now and again I'll just swap them over. But at the moment I'm running this initial D1, and it's really comfortable. And once you're driving, even though there's no power steering, it's so good to drive. And it's actually quite common for a lot of Ae86 owners to actually convert their power steering into manual rack. I suppose that's better for maybe driving on the track, I don't know. But it's quite common, as I said, for them to convert to manual rack. So one of the negative things about owning this car is when certain people see you, they just want to have a race, which isn't really worth it, admittedly, in this car, because as I said, it's not the quickest of cars, but they see it and I think they get a bit excited and they want to have a race. But I suppose one of the good things is the sound it makes when you do give them a bit of a race and you open up the 4AG motor. Hopefully you can hear. Especially the Manga series initial D, a lot of you will know know when you see this car what it is, and the amazing response I get from it is great. A lot of people you can sort of drive past and you see a smile on their face. I suppose a lot of people that don't know it will also look at it and go, what is that? I've never seen that before. So yeah, it's definitely a car that gains a lot of response. The prices they currently go for, in my personal opinion, are a bit crazy. I mean, they're a fantastic car and they have an incredible following, and I think that's what bumps up the price, is the popularity of the car. But it is just a 1980s Corolla. I can say that because I'm very lucky that I own one. But my honest opinion, even though I own it, and I tell my friends this, is that it is crazy what some people pay. So I was right place, right time. I was very lucky, especially with the fact they make so much money now. To get parts can and cannot be very difficult. It depends who you know. I think if you own a car like this, you really need to get yourself on the forums, and also just get to know the people who have the parts available. Now, I'm very lucky that over the years I managed to get the right parts at the right time, and I've managed to build the car up to the spec that I'm happy with. A lot of the time, Ae86s are modified. I'd say the only modifications I've done on this is a 4-branch manifold. Gives it a little bit of a, seems to give it a bit more of a punch. And the fact that it was already lowered, the suspension that's on the car was how it was when it came over from Japan. As I said, I am going to be renewing that at some point. Okay, so let's have a little bit of a walk around. So as I said before in the video, this is silver over black. And as far as I'm aware, they only did this combination for about a year or a year and a half. So very rare. The louver is something that I made. I've made a couple for a few Ae86 owners, and also for a Celica RA28. So yeah, this is what I call it, icon louvers. And I've always wanted a louver. 80s cars just need one, so I made one. These are the wheels I'm on about. So these were, as I said, original early spec wheels, which a friend of mine managed to put on a mill and cut off the original lip, and then we managed to extend the lip, and they're now 8J on the rear and 7.5s on the front. So it's sort of a bit of OEM plus, which I love. Now, something relatively recent is I managed to get hold of a Zenki front bumper. This is a genuine front bumper. There are companies now that replicate them. This was in a bad way, but I managed to get a local chap called Mike, incredible painter, been doing it for decades. He managed to restore it for me. I managed to get brand new lenses from a chap in Ireland, and then added the fog lights, and everything works. I managed to wire in the fog lights for them to work. Also the number plate, that's a recent purchase. Always wanted a private plate, and I think it really suits the car. But yeah, that was a good purchase. Not cheap, but this is a Zenki car, and the late spec bumper, a lot of people prefer them, but I just prefer this one, a lot cleaner. So what I've done and what I've added since I've owned the car is the side skirts, because this is a really early car. It wouldn't have had side skirts, and also I added the OEM spoiler as well. Just gives it a bit more of a look. So inside, as I said, managed to get hold of some early seats. So I was very lucky that the passenger seat was actually on Facebook Marketplace, and I picked it up for around 100 quid, which was madness, and in that condition. Now the driver's one I had to make. So there's a chap in Ireland, he had a box just full of cloth, and I'm very lucky. This would have been the passenger side, but they're both exactly the same. So I now have a pair of early spec JDM blue seats, and the difference between the JDM and the UK spec is that this has like 4 ribs, whereas the UK spec I think has 7. So as mentioned as well, a bit closer look. So this is my Initial D replica steering wheel in Volante, which is what they run. A good friend of mine, Mark, he managed to re-etch the original logo into this red leather, which I had stitched. All of these plastics, they go, because they're like an ABS plastic, they go yellowy with the sun. So what I managed to do is actually get some paint mixed up to the same colour as the doors, and I actually repainted all the plastics, so they haven't got that yellowy colour. They're the blue that they would have been back in the day. So one of the purchases I made quite early on was this dash mat from Moon Eyes. Now blue dashes are extremely hard to get hold of, and this is absolutely A1. There's not a mark on it. They tend to sometimes split, but this is absolutely pristine. So when I obviously found out that blue was the colour that everyone wants, and it is the rarest, I purchased this from Japan, and I've always ran it. I want to protect it as best I can. So, original cassette player. I very rarely listen to music in this car, but if I do, I have a cassette which goes in here with a cable which plugs into my phone, so it's never a problem, or I just listen to the radio. But as I said, I want to try and make this as original as possible, so a good friend of mine gave me this, and it is a Toyota unit, and this was out of a Starlet EP71 as far as I'm aware. This was a lucky purchase from John Cloco, who's very well known for Ae86 parts. This is a genuine Toyota non-smoking sticker I had off my Starlet non-smoking ashtrays, which I put on. But as you can see on here, no smoker's box, and all it is just basically a felt insert where you can store your yen, as it were, if you're in Japan. But yeah, really hard to come by. It's a really nice little optional extra, and I loved my optional extras when I had my Starlet. I had many. So yeah, really grateful for John to send me that. These little things, I actually found these in the ashtray when I purchased the car, and Andy forgot he left them in there. But I'm glad he did, because these are classed as my lucky charms. And I assume these were in the car when it came over from Japan. So these sort of need to stay with the car, really. So yeah, just porcelain little cats. And cats in Japan, for those of you that do know, obviously bring good luck, or a symbol of good luck. Rear seats are absolutely pristine. They tend to split on the stitching here on the headrests, but these are absolutely mint. So I'm very, very lucky. Take a look under the hood. So as you can see here, I've got the original airbox. Purchased this a good few years ago. Bit of a strange one really, how the intake is on the manifold side, so you get a little bit of hot air, I imagine, but you know, Toyota engineers know what they're doing. So yeah, always wanted to run the original. When I first bought it, it came with this HKS aftermarket air filter, which I wasn't really a fan of. All original plenum. All the original fixings and stuff I've had re-zinc plated, so they look a little bit newer. TRD leads. I had some aftermarket leads, and I think one of them failed. There was slight misfire, so I decided to treat myself, because these aren't exactly the cheapest of leads, but I thought why not. And this is the Cuzco strut brace which came with the car. I've just repainted the ends to make them all look nice and clean. And this is the T3 add-on, this bit here, and I just love the look of it. And then what I've done is I've wrapped it in carbon. When I originally bought the car, it had a Varis carbon fibre bonnet, and I'll see if I can post a picture up here for you, but was never really a fan. So what I did is I sold that, and I managed to get an original bonnet, and this bonnet was originally in red, and that had a full paint strip repair. It was a little bit dinged here where I assume it was in storage. But that's about it really, guys. But yeah, thanks for watching. For those of you that haven't, please consider subscribing, and thumbs up for the video if you enjoyed it. as I said, I've got some more bits and pieces that I want to do to this car. Plenty more to come. And one of the things that I will be doing, as far as I'm aware, is the first of in the UK and possibly Europe. So yeah, watch this space, and hopefully see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.